I couldn't do that double life anymore. I couldn't stomach the shame that I was feeling internally with, the spotlight that was glaring on me during that time, and mental breakdown, because it was just too much. Since 32, since my diagnosis, along with this time of sobriety, I have a group of friends that I earned, that I am so, so grateful for. Slowly, I've been doing things to speak life back into myself. Come back to life, kid. I didn't feel like living. I was just so, so heavy with the dark things in life.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for doing this. I'm so excited.
Caroline, thank you for reaching out.
I was just driving here today thinking about just how cool it is that I get to meet you and do this and connect with a sober person. And I'm such a fan of your work. And
Thank you.
It's really incredible that, the only reason I get to do this is because I'm sober.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool thing to realize,
Yeah.
because I used to get drunk to have the connection and it wasn't a connection, right? It was like this fake, false connection that was with people who maybe didn't care about my well-being or just wanted to do drugs with me and party with me. And now that looks very, very different.
Yeah.
And that's just because of being sober. And it's just the reminder that it's always there.
Yes.
That's really powerful. And it's been around for a long time.
Going back after you've been away for a minute is a warm hug. It has been something that I've been looking forward to in my days. When you get off the train, you don't remember how much this routine actually brings you a lot of joy. I'm somebody who likes to do the least amount possible. My character defects is I'm pretty lazy. And we were reading a book last night where it said, and the prospect of genuine work like horrifies you or whatever. That's kind of the place that I feel in. But man, those rooms, I forget that there is always a high vibe waiting for you. Always. Even if people are saying this, that, and other, whatever, there's just something about communing with your fellows and praying that you feel.
I want to talk about Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah.
Because I'm a massive fan of the show.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, I love your character page on the show.
Thank you.
And you did such a great job. You've been open about your journey on the show in relation to your addiction and struggles. If you'd feel comfortable talking about it, like what is your relationship to being in the spotlight in that way and your addiction, and how did that impact your experience on the show?
Yeah, I look back at Pretty Little Liars as one of the best and most revealing times in my life. I was working with high-vibing people. I was working on a legendary studio lot. All of these things were a huge plus. I was this recurring character who got to come back and have a lot of, meaty scenes with this like beautiful relationship I got to portray and be, a representative for. And and instead of being able to soak up all of that part of the journey, I was really preoccupied with my own personal pain that I wasn't even totally aware of yet. And it got so bad, it kind of got to the attention of the people who ran the show. And I'm sad that is a memory that I have walking away from there. But overall, I am so fulfilled by the character of Paige. I am so fulfilled with the journey that she went through with the outlet that I got to have for my own personal stuff there. Like, she was a lifeline for me. I look back at the character and, I see and say that she's really needy. And I was really needy back then. That's kind of what I see her in and as, but I also see her as this courageous woman who never stopped. And even after I was sort of, let go in the 6th season to tend to my personal matters that had become so obvious, I got to come back. I got to come back and have closure for her. And that was so important because I didn't want to do her a disservice either. Like, she deserved, you know, an end to that story. That relationship deserved closure, and I'm so grateful for it. You know, I wish I could have enjoyed it in a bigger way, but that show gave me a lot.
So you came back in the 7th season. What was it like to get that call?
I felt like I had been in exile, and like the light shone in on the dark of me just here being alone, and I turned around and everybody was just like standing with open arms. You know, I know that they had all known and been aware of what I was going through and why I was going through that. But I felt respected. I felt relief. I felt also very nervous because I had left the show as this waif, right? Like, you know, I was very skinny and I came back 30 pounds heavier. And we had a different wardrobe woman. I'd been so close with Mandy, the woman who had done, you know, the first 5 or 6 seasons. And so I just felt like they weren't, you know, dressing me as, I just think Mandy has a real knack for it, no matter what your body type is. And sometimes you don't feel that so much. And I definitely just did not feel my best going back. So it was scary, but very validating. Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's interesting because, like, obviously watching the show, you have no idea what the actors are going through. And it must have been really hard to be in the spotlight in that big way and be dealing with, like, so much stuff. I know it was hard for me to deal with my stuff and I wasn't in the spotlight, you know? Yeah.
I mean, you kind of feel like there's a spotlight on you when you admit that you know, are where you are, that you're powerless. You know, when you admit all of those things, I feel like a huge spotlight just goes on you personally in your own mind. And so that was really difficult. I felt like I was almost living this dual life of acting like, you know, look at me. I'm a performer. This is what I do to be successful. I'm at the top of my game. Here we are. But then knowing how badly I was sort of breaking down my self-esteem by using and not taking care of myself at all, and knowing what it was looking like knowing what I looked like showing up to those things and how far it was away from who I wanted to be and slipping so much further from what it used to be, right? Like, you have this image, but using it for a long period of time is going to start to degrade that image a decent amount. And so while all the tatters are just kind of falling around you, you're still trying to act like everything's all right. Yeah, that was painful. That split in my mind was very, very difficult to go through. And it just kind of all crumbled at a point where it was like, all right, I have to leave. I can't take this spotlight. There was a point that I hit kind of complete mania before I left for 2 years to Arizona because I couldn't do that double life anymore. I couldn't stomach the shame that I was feeling internally with, you know, the spotlight that was glaring on me during that time, and mental breakdown because it was just too much. Those two journeys going on at the same time.
What would you say to somebody who's freshly diagnosed with BPD? What would you say to yourself when you were first diagnosed?
I would say, it's about time that you got this help that you needed. Isn't it nice that there is something, that there is a way to work towards your goals in the state that you're in? There's a name for it, and there are resources for it, and you aren't the son of a bitch that you thought that you were. You're not this horrible, rotten person, right? You have a little brain spiciness going on. Everybody hates when people say that. You have a little bit of emotional intelligence that you haven't even learned how to decipher yet, really. You know, to me, BPD has deepened my emotional intelligence completely, knowing how to like get a handle on it now. These big feelings are so beautiful, and it's going to be even more beautiful when they don't, cut you up and hurt you and all of these things. Like, these emotions are worthy, they're communication, and there is a way to use them instead of let them sort of use and abuse you.
This podcast is sponsored by Toast. Toast beverages are alcohol-free sparkling beverages made with all natural ingredients, including white tea, white cranberry, and ginger. Crafted by a team of culinary experts, Toast imparts the characteristics often found in alcoholic beverages, only without the alcohol. Equally as satisfying as a daily refreshment as it is paired with fine dining, Toast creates meaningful and refreshing drinking experiences that are perfect for every occasion. Whether it's a large gathering or a celebration at home, Toast can be enjoyed anytime, anywhere, by anyone. It's such a beautiful way to put it. I love that so much. I'm gonna take that with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've always been grateful that I struggled so young for so long, because I think it's given me empathy and compassion for other people. And, I think that's a really big thing to hold.
That is a huge thing to hold. Empathy and compassion for yourself, which then comes through the right channels to be given to other people, is everything. My emotions are a superpower, and I know that. And the BPD is actually sort of the catalyst. I don't know what you call it in superhero lore. Is it like whatever? The origin story is the BPD, and we get to live with these big, beautiful things. We get to feel so deeply. Like, when you're enjoying something, I know people are like, that's manic, whatever. No. When I'm so enjoying something and I'm so present and I'm so deeply feeling my joy, there is nothing like that. And I get that. I get to experience joy that big, and I get to learn how to manage these other emotions, this other energy, which is available to me, which I am hyper aware of because of my BPD, and that I get to, have a front row seat to all of this energy around me. And now I get to be like, hey, you got to conduct it. Now I know there's this diagnosis where it's like, hey, you've got to be the conductor of this big energy, So yeah, that empathy and compassion for myself has definitely spilled out to other people. I think I was a pretty selfish person for a long time in my life without wanting to be. And the program and this diagnosis has definitely sort of opened my heart to other people.
Do you find that sometimes it's difficult to connect with, just speaking from my own experience, connect with other sober people who don't have BPD, and maybe there's like a little bit of stigma within the sober community?
Right. I definitely feel that. I think I would actually like to find some similar meetings for BPD. If I haven't really looked into that yet, but I'm not even sure if there are. We'd probably just be screaming at each other the whole time. No, I'm just kidding. Relating to anybody who's being super upfront and honest about themselves and about vulnerable things in their life, I find myself just so present and deeply listening, and I don't find, I guess, that big of a difference, because we're all dealing with these big emotions that could lead to a train wreck at any time. While I do feel like sometimes I'm running a dual train wreck, I know there's a lot of people with dual diagnosis and sobriety, and so I think we're all playing with kind of a mixed deck. And no, I what I find is just the stories of other people, they bring me really present. And yeah, I actually don't talk about the BPD as much within those groups. So maybe, I don't see it as much, but like, what is your experience with that?
I tend to relate more to people who also have the BPD diagnosis, or because for a long time I felt, and I distinctly remember sharing about this at the 12th Street Workshop in New York, if you know that meeting, I just felt like I was in this cage and I was like looking at myself in a cage and I just couldn't get out. And that's what the sort of like borderline symptoms felt like to me. And it was challenging to be in a space at times where I felt like people were telling me like, just work the steps and everything's fine. And I'm like, I think I need more. I think I need some other resources too.
Did you find other resources or do you have like a BPD group that you're close to?
I went to a rehab and I started doing IFS therapy and it changed my entire life.
So IFS is, I think I'm thinking of EMD.
Internal Family Systems. I think I'm saying that right. It's where you identify different parts of yourself. And so I was struggling with like rage a lot. And I had this like rage part of myself that I could identify and name and then tell it like, thank you for, you know, trying to do your job, but like, we don't need you anymore. And like having empathy and compassion towards that part and being able to identify it as a part, not like all of me, was just the most profound experience and enabled me to let it go, actually, which I didn't think was possible.
Yeah. I struggle with the rage BPD as well. I'd say that's sort of the overwhelming.
It's hard.
Feeling that, and the depression is just, you know, wow. But yeah, I can understand that. You have made me want to go. I'm literally hunting for a new sponsor. I am back in it. I've realized like I'm back at step 3 a little bit. I've become codependent on other things in my life than just myself and my own higher power, like roommates, you know, friends help. And while community is fantastic, like I don't want that to have taken away from my autonomy, like with all of this, and just like my obligation to be my primary backup, right? And source. Yeah, that's just really inspiring. I appreciate it.
Oh, cool. We've talked a little bit about your BPD, talked a lot about your BPD and your journey with sobriety. What are your favorite mental health resources?
Favorite mental health resources? Probably, honestly, honesty and communication. There aren't like, I mean, I go everywhere on the internet. I use ChatGPT. ChatGPT can actually be your therapist. My roommate taught me this. You type in sort of, you know, whatever you're kind of feeling, all of the junk, you put it in there. And chat kind of talks this whole thing out with you in the way that a therapist should, but it talks it out with you. And I think unloading, whether it be in a journal or on chat or to a friend, is really the most important thing. Like I said, I have not kept my arsenal that sharp on specific tools. All I know is that I process out loud a lot, and processing to friends who I know are listening and get me and care about my well-being is what works best for me. Really, it does.
I used chat the other day to ask it, how do I disrupt a BPD episode? And it had really great ideas. Like one of them was like this box of like you write down different resources like opposite action or like different self-soothing techniques, and you put them in a box, and then when you're having an episode, you open the box and you grab one and you just do it.
That's genius.
I really liked it.
Wait
yeah. I haven't used it yet, but I really liked it.
Yeah. Opposite action is genius.
Yeah.
It crumbles your thoughts right up and says, this other way. Also just like walking and meditation, especially walking meditation. Movement is so important for us to get everybody, just to get everything kind of moving around in you. But I feel like for your emotions too, you can kind of reorder everything after you take a good walk, and that's good. Just a controlled burn isolation. You know what I mean? Not being too isolated for too long, but taking the time that you need a little bit. Feels really, really good. I really just tune out of things if I need to. That's like my primary go-to is like, yo, take a break, step away.
Tune out from like the phone.
And like even something like this today here, if I just needed a break sort of in the beginning or whatever, I have to ask for that. Like So yeah, honesty and communication, I think.
That's such a great self-care technique. I love it. I struggle with that sometimes, but I love it. Okay, so what would you say to somebody just coming back from a relapse?
Welcome back. I've been there. And, we try for perfect sobriety. And if that's not it, that's okay. We start again. The courage to start again after you feel that shame of, I did something wrong or I did it wrong, or that's everything to be able to look at yourself again. That's all that we have in this life is like the rise and the fall, and, be gentle with yourself. The only way that I got sober was being able to stand in front of all the defects that I had without becoming a victim of those defects again. And so it's paramount to hold space for yourself, to hold space for the journey you thought you were going to have, to hold space for this new journey that you have. And the point is, it might not be linear, but it doesn't, everything that you learned before the relapse isn't gone, right? Sometimes we need, 2 and 3 and 4 and 6 and 17 times repetition to finally get the material. And so just keep walking towards yourself, however many stepping stones it takes. Just keep walking towards the light. There's nothing for you in that relapse or in that mindset. So as soon as you can start back on the path again, the better it is for yourself.
100%. I think when I had 6 years, and then I had one night of relapse, and then I was back. I knew I had to be back, and now it's been 10 months back. And my 7 year, what would have been my 7 years, passed by March 1st. And I was like, I was feeling things, man.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, today would have been 7. And, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
May I ask, was it like a spur of the minute thing? Was it like because you were feeling bad or because you were feeling good?
I was feeling bad. And I just didn't have the tools, and I didn't know what to do. And I just drove to the store and I bought some booze, and I came back and I just, it's just, and I knew I was like, Caroline, no, this ain't it.
and even when you've, taken the drink and you think that it's going to be, because I've also relapsed, you think it's going to be this thing, and it's kind of not. It's kind of not. You're like, am I as drunk? Why am I not drunk enough to forget that I'm making that I feel bad about what I'm doing?
Yeah.
It's sort of, they always say, you can't drink the same when you have a belly full of AA.
Exactly.
And that is absolutely true. But right on. Good for you. Glad you got back up and are here with interviewing and all of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very humbling because I think I got a little into myself for having 6 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got sober when I was 21. And that just felt pretty good. And then I was like, wow, this could happen to any of us. And, you could have 30 years and pick up a drink,
Yeah. 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 That's always a little bit of what scares me is relapsing after, 20, 25, whatever, 10 years. I guess it's hard for me to think that you have to stay present every single moment, that it never goes on autopilot, that it, at any point you're vulnerable to this disease. And that is, I think, what's overwhelming sometimes is like, I'm tired of working back to ground level every day. I'm tired of having to put in so much more effort to feel and to be in this world. And that's like the poor me, character defecty kind of stuff coming out. But it's stuff that I have to honor at the same time. Like there is sometimes a resentment that I can't just be, like a normal one of my fellows. And, I get invited to things and people are at bars and they're having a good time and they're just letting loose with like one XYZ. And, no matter what, you're just kind of aware of that, or at least I'm still kind of aware of that 3.5 years in. But I'm grateful that I'm not checking my phone every morning to see like what I posted on my stories or who I texted or, oh my gosh, what sort of like villainous arc that I'm going to have to apologize for now. But yeah, sometimes it is just kind of like, to do this work.
Yeah.
But you do have to do this work.
The chaos of waking up to that phone is not something that I miss in the slightest. And the text, like scrolling, oh God, why did I do it?
And this person knows that you're sober, so that's a whole other conversation. Oh no. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do to stay present in your life?
I try to listen. I feel like the most present with other people. I love listening to other people. I like listening to their stories. I find it harder to listen to myself. But I love to stay playful. That's also something that just kind of is a mental health resource of mine. Being silly and getting silly, doing a voice, doing this, doing that, other. Just getting in and out of my mind as frequently as possible. A punchline. Yeah, it's difficult, but being present with people is like one of my favorite things to be. I hate being alone, but like being with people and really like seeing and feeling and being with them is amazing. So I think listening.
I've noticed that about, obviously we had never met before, but I've seen your Instagram and it just makes me laugh and smile. And like, it's so sweet, like having, some of the like videos you post and things. It just seems like you do have a really playful way about you. And I think that's something we could all learn from.
I appreciate that. That's one of my favorite things about myself is that I do like to play. I call myself a menace. I really am. I really am. And it's one of the greatest things is to just push people like in the silliest way. I love hiding. Look, if you're the last one at an event, you have to understand I'm going to be hiding from you somewhere and jump out and scare you. Absolutely 100%. It's like one of my favorite games. My roommate, I'll call her down and then make her find me. Yeah. So
I love it. Okay. So I ask everybody this at the end. What does the idea of being a comeback kid mean to you? And in what ways are you a comeback kid? Because we are the Comeback Kid podcast.
I love that. Love that. Coming back to life. Come back to life, kid. That is what I have felt. I didn't feel like living or the value in it for a long time during those dark years just before, or going in and out, relapsing, coming back in and out. But basically since I was 25, I got sober this time at 32 and praying that it's the last time. But between 25 and 32, I was just so heavy with the dark things in life. Come back to life, kid. It's worth it. Come back to the light. Yeah.
What a treat. What a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolyn. You are fantastic. And you've got a button nose like I do. Matching buttons.
Thank you for being here.
You're
the best.